After last weekend, it feels like Liverpool are now in the driving seat to go on and win the Premier League title. But between Liverpool, Arsenal and Man City, it is all still to play for. Maybe Aston Villa and Tottenham have maybe disconnected themselves from 6th and 7th in the table, and they're quite comfy in the top 5. But the rest of the table, the European spots for 6th and 7th, as well as all the relegation spots, there is still tons to be playing for, as well as some of these teams in the middle of the table who are on track for historic seasons or some overachieving performances. After the absolute snooze fest of Man City Arsenal last weekend, Pep Guardiola's Man City this weekend travelled to Selhurst Park to take on Oliver Glasner's Crystal Palace, and this is only going to be Oliver Glasner's third home game. Looking at Crystal Palace's form since he's came in, they have really struggled to get going, and their biggest problem at the moment is really scoring goals, scoring more than one a game, getting into the 2s and 3s is something that has eluded Crystal Palace all the way through this season, and unfortunately in the immediate term the manager hasn't really been able to turn that around. Man City on the other hand are going through a bit of an injury crisis in defence at the moment, and with Champions League football back on the horizon, this could be a little opportunity for Crystal Palace to maybe have a bit of a sucker punch. Crystal Palace and Glasner want to play counter-attacking football, and with Man City coming to town expected to be clipping 70 to maybe even 80% of possession, you know City are going to get goals, you know they're going to get opportunities, but Crystal Palace are going to have opportunities to break in counter-attacks, transitions, whatever you want to call them. And I can see Palace giving City a good run for their money with some of the key players they're missing defensively, and who knows who'll be in goals for City. I think Crystal Palace will cause a bit of an upset here in scoring 2 goals in the game, but Man City, I think ultimately the title challenge, Champions League football this weekend, will probably see them push the result over the top in their favour. So I'm going to go for Man City 3, Crystal Palace 2. If Brentford are going to avoid getting dragged into the relegation dogfight towards the end of the season, they need points, they need victories, and they need them fast. Last week, getting a draw with Man United is definitely a positive result, and we'll have spirits on the high, on an upward trajectory coming into this weekend, but going away to Aston Villa is no mean feat at all. The run of form Villa are in at the moment, the position in the table, home form, everything points to Villa being strong favourites for this, but they do have a bit of an injury crisis, and they're about to have midweek football coming up. This is a game where both teams won't be taking it lightly, with so much still to play for, but with Aston Villa being somewhat disconnected from dropping out of the bottom 4, I think Brentford might be up for this just a little bit more than Villa. Villa at home always score goals, ish. And Brentford away, I've got a really good track record at the moment of being involved in high scoring affairs. With how deep and tight Brentford like to play, I definitely think Villa are going to score, but it's going to be really hard to see them score more than 2 goals in this match. Brentford themselves, I'm not sure have got that much firepower to outscore Villa, so I'm going to go for the Desmond. I'm going to go for a 2 each draw. Burnley are going to have any chance of staying in the Premier League. They need to beat Everton. They need the 3 points away at Goodison Park this weekend. But Everton themselves, with all the off-field stuff, basically drilling Everton to the bottom of the table, this is a game that for them, they really need the points to make sure they keep their distance from the bottom 3. After having a run of really disappointing results, a bunch of draws, not really getting wins over the line, Sean Dyche's men will definitely be looking at this game as one that they should be taking home advantage and getting the victory. Sadly for both teams, they've been very shot shy. They've not actually been putting the ball in the back of the net too often, and I think this game has got the makings of being a very simple 1-0 victory to Everton. Wolves at home at West Ham is going to be one of the toughest games to call this weekend. Last time these two teams met, it was a 3-0 victory for the Hammers. But as we know with David Moyes, Gary O'Neill, both these teams, they've had their highs, their lows, their obstacles, their challenges to overcome, and both of them are sitting in really strong positions in the league table, still firmly looking up and thinking about having a positive end to the season. But Wolves are very stretched. They don't have very many players to call upon at the best of times, and they'll be crossing their fingers that talisman Matthias Cunha can come back into the team and really lead the firing line. But as for West Ham, it's much more a case of they are worth more than the sum of their parts. They've been a very good team unit and adapting to different fixtures to try and, find their own route to goal, their own route to victory. Maybe it's not always the nicest on the eye, but these two teams have got a good history of high scoring affairs, and with Wolves being at home and the style of play that I expect to see for both of these teams, I definitely think this is going to be a both teams to score affair. West Ham have not been good on the road recently, and Wolves have got a really, a pretty strong home record, it must be said, here at Molineux. So if we can get Cunha back on the pitch, the midfield for Wolves is really strong. I think Wolves could go and get a victory here. Getting a clean sheet is probably not on the cards for them, but with West Ham having scored 5 goals in the last 3 games against Tottenham, Newcastle and Aston Villa, very formidable opponents, West Ham will be right up for this one. But I'm going to go with Wolves to win this game by 2-1. Over the last 10 games, Bournemouth have been in the top 8 for form in the Premier League, and over the last 5 matches, They are currently sitting in third. They are one of the most informed teams in the Premier League at the moment. And without spending big money this summer, it's all been about the work of Andoni Iraola, coaching the team, developing the team, and slowly but surely improving their performances and their results throughout the season. This weekend they're away to Luton, who, while being at home, will be looking at this game as an opportunity for them to get 3 points and maybe get themselves out of the bottom three and really realise that potential of maybe they could stay in the division. But with the form Bournemouth are in, how tactically well organised they are, I think they will probably have too much for Luton on the day. But the fixture, the venue, all these things do come into the mix. I don't think it's going to be a comfortable game for either. But I think the firepower that Bournemouth have with Solanke from the start and the likes of Enes Ünal from the bench, I think they're going to actually outfire Luton here. I'm going to go for Bournemouth to get 3 goals in this game, and I don't think they can get a clean sheet, especially away to Luton, just with how much motivation they've got and how much the 3 points means to them. So I'm going to go for Bournemouth to win this by 3-1 and keep that impressive form up as they charge down the top half of the table. It's the black and white derby this weekend. Fulham are at home to Newcastle, and both teams are making a lot of headlines at the moment, whether it be for triple substitutions or triple, quadruple injury crises are going on for either team. 5 positions and 5 points separate these teams, and both of them are looking at being in the top upper middle half. Newcastle especially looking a little bit higher, trying to get into the European spots. And this has the makings of being one of the most difficult games to forecast, no problem, because you really don't know what Fulham are going to turn up. And with Newcastle just beating West Ham by 4-3 in a very memorable game, getting the draw there to Everton, they're starting to get some good form despite the increase in injury crisis that they seem to have going on constantly. There is no rest for Eddie Howe's men, and really this game could be anything. The performances of Dubravka and goals definitely leave a lot to be desired. So I see Newcastle conceding, but I do actually see Newcastle scoring a fair amount of goals. I think they've got a well-polished, effective attack line. I mean, you've got the likes of Gordon, Isak, Almiron, Barnes. You know, the attacking power I think Newcastle have got is there to be seen. I think Fulham are definitely going to get a goal in this one. Probably 2. The last 2 meetings these teams have had in the FA Cup and in the league previously, Newcastle have won by 2 and 3-0. So I'm going to go for Newcastle to take 3 goals in this one and win it by 3-2. Brighton v Arsenal over the last few years has always been a high scoring affair. Normally Brighton are maybe punching a bit above their weight. They're a bit higher on the table, maybe a bit closer to Arsenal. But nowadays it's Arsenal fighting at the nosebleeds right at the tippy top of the table, and Brighton are a little bit further back, unfortunately for them. I don't think home advantage is going to help Brighton too much in this game with how strong defensively Arsenal have been and how good their midfield is and whole team, essentially. I think this is going to be a great game for Arsenal because Brighton need to come out. Brighton need the points, and when they're at home, they're going to try and put their style of play onto the match to try and get the victory for themselves. And I think this is really going to play into Arsenal's hands. I think Arsenal are going to get a clean sheet in this game and win the game by 2-0 and really put the pressure on the tippy top of the table. And this Super Sunday, we have potentially a Premier League classic on our hands. It is Jurgen Klopp's final trip to Old Trafford as Liverpool manager. As Liverpool sit top of the table, in cruise control, in the driver's seat, looking to try and win another Premier League title. But for Man United at Old Trafford, they are not going to be lying down. They do not want Liverpool to win the league. They do not want Liverpool to win the 3 points. And maybe if Man United can't get motivated to do well for themselves, maybe they can get motivated to do harm to their rival. In 29 matches in the league this year, Man United have scored 40 goals and conceded 40 goals, a net goal difference of 0. And if that doesn't sum up their season, then I don't know what does. Liverpool, on the other hand, have got a plus 40 goal difference. They've scored 67, conceded 27 in the league. And I think away at Old Trafford probably plays into Liverpool's hands quite nicely because I think Mo Salah, Andy Robertson, Van Dijk, some of these more seasoned players in the team that will feature, they want that hostile atmosphere. They want that feeling of the match being a 6-pointer, a real derby affair. And I think that's when we see the best Jurgen Klopp, we see the best Liverpool teams is when they're in these high-stakes affairs. So I think this game probably plays into Liverpool's hands fairly well. I know Man United's form has been better than what it had been not too long ago. They drew with Brighton after they should have won last weekend, and I don't think they've got enough in the tank to harm this Liverpool team. I could sincerely see Liverpool going to Old Trafford and getting the clean sheet here, but it just depends how much revenge Jurgen Klopp is wanting to have after that cup elimination. I think Liverpool bring 2 or 3 goals to this game, no problem at all. I'm going to go with 3, and Man United definitely going to score in this one. Maybe they can get the clean sheet. I'm going to go with Liverpool 3, Man United 1. Now, Chelsea's form has started to improve. They're not losing as many games, but they're not really winning many more either. This weekend, they go away to Bramall Lane to see Sheffield United in a game that for me is an absolute must-win for the manager. Mauricio Pochettino has got some sceptics, he's got some doubters in the camp now, and failing to get a convincing result against Sheffield United, never mind just a result, is really going to turn up the pressure. Chelsea will firmly be in the bottom half of the table then, and I know they still got some games in hand to play or whatever, but Sheffield United have been getting kicked from pillar to post all season long, and Chelsea are starting to score some goals. They need to show up, they need to get a convincing result in this one. But Sheffield United over the last 3 games haven't been mugs either. They've actually got their act together, is a clean way of saying it, and they're not going to be any pushovers for this game here. And with how young the Chelsea team is in a wider regard, I think Sheffield could be maybe a wee bit more of a match for them if they're going to frustrate them, stay in tight, keep it defensively organised, and look to just take your chances when they come in the game. I don't think Sheffield United are going to score in this one, to be quite honest with you, but I don't think Chelsea are going to absolutely run them away either. I could see them getting a goal or two maybe in the second half. I think this could be like 0-0 at half time, quite a tight, tense affair. But I'm going to go with Chelsea to win this by 2-0. Nottingham Forest have been a real difficult team to size up and weigh up. They've got some talent, they've got some good players, they've changed their manager, but they never really get convincing. You never really watch them and think, oh yeah, I can see that they've clicked and it feels like they're going to maybe go up a gear, they're going to go up a level. Every game kind of feels like they're flying by the seat of their pants, which is maybe something you could say similar for Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham, but flying by the seat of their pants is firmly in the game plan and the design. Nottingham Forest have scored 39 goals over 31 games, which is a very, very poor return in the Premier League, whereas Tottenham have scored 62 in the last 30. I think Tottenham at home are safe and clean for 2 goals, maybe even 3 in this one. Nottingham Forest do have the ability to get a goal or 2 on the break. Tottenham will give you a chance to score in this one. I'm going to go for Tottenham to win this by 3-1. In the Brennan Johnson derby, you've got to think Brennan's getting a goal in this one. I hope you enjoy the football. Good luck with whatever you're doing this weekend for watching against the Premier League. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this on screen and now with some other stuff that I've made that YouTube thinks you might enjoy. I hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.